welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Lithuania. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Definra. His first awarded as MVP in 2024. His main hobbies are traveling, reading books, playing board games, and making cocktails. A man after my own heart when it comes to making cocktails. We'll be able to talk about his bar and my bar. He makes them for his family, friends, and I bet he samples one or two himself. He is also a top-time solution author and top all-time most kudos author in the Microsoft Power Platform Community Forum for PAD. If you want to check out his social media, his content, he's got everything from Discord channels to blogs to social media. You can check him out. He's on Quora as well, even. So there's plenty of content out there about what he does. I've had the pleasure of seeing him speak live recently in London at the Microsoft office in London. And I even stole some of his cartoons that he had representing databases and the relationship between Excel and SharePoint as if they're a database or not. So with that, Agnus, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. And yeah, that's a lot. I actually forgot I'm on Quora. It's been a while, but yeah, I did a couple of gigs there as well. So yeah, it's great being here.
I love it. As in, if I've got this right, your secret skill, your wizardry is around Power Automate Desktop. Is that right?
Yep.
Nice. I'm looking forward to unpacking that. Before we do, food, family, and fun. Tell us about your cocktail making. As a mixologist, what do you get up to? What's your favorite drink? And what do you do when you're not doing RPA stuff?
Okay, so basically, it's a hobby, mixology. I've only started, a year ago or something like that, because I was previously just into. A couple of years ago, I loved having craft beers. Then I kind of switched to whiskey, and then a couple of years ago I switched to gin tonic, which was a lighter drink, especially in summers. And then I was in the European Power Platform Conference in Dublin last year, and I was introduced to a shot called a Baby Guinness. Not sure if you've heard of that. It looks like a tiny pint of Guinness, and it's basically a mix of coffee liquor and with a float of Bailey's Irish cream on top. So it's very sweet kind of a thing. It's kind of strong, but it goes very well when it's chilled and in a small batch. I went back home and I introduced my wife to that because she likes these sweet liquors. I don't really, but she does. And that kind of got me into just experimenting with stuff. And initially with these sweet liquors for her, but then kind of switched to more stuff that I actually, my team in the office actually gave me a gift of, the whole cocktail maker set thing. And that got me hooked. And my favorite cocktail right now is a Mai Tai. But a traditional Mai Tai with no pineapple juice. It's very strong when you make it the right way. So you can't really do a lot of those, but maybe, a couple of them a night is usually enough.
Yeah. I personally love a Mai Tai myself, and I feel that the best Mai Tai, which is not the OG Mai Tai, but it was from Waikiki in Hawaii. We went to, there's a Mai Tai bar there, and even on their website, I went back and, because I tasted a few Mai Tais that I made myself, and I'm like, man, none of these taste like that Mai Tai that I had at that bar. And so I went to their website, and lo and behold, they had the recipe for the way they make it on the website. And it has about 3 different rums in it. And it's just, every time I serve it up to folks, they're just like, this is amazing. This is incredible. So I that's the Mai Tai version I've settled on.
Can you share the recipe with me, or the link to it? That would be awesome. I'd love to try.
I'll find it. I'll find it and I'll share it with you. I'll share the recipe page with you. Have you got into tequilas at all?
A bit. Well, I've experimented with all sorts of margaritas for my friends, but the last time I did that, they all got very drunk, and then we probably because we were just kind of doing lots of different cocktails, and that just it gets exciting, but then it goes sideways very quickly.
It does. When you finished your tequila journey, then you want to start your mezcal journey.
I know that. I've tried a couple of those, but I think I'm probably not there yet, but or maybe it's just that I'm more of a rum person, I guess. I never thought I'd like rum. I usually just thought that whiskey and gin are my thing. But now I'm really into rum and rum-based cocktails. I love those.
Very nice, very nice. You want to try a spiced rum daiquiri at some point. That's another crowd pleaser. Everybody I give a spiced rum daiquiri to, and I learned that recipe from a doctor who through med school was a bartender, and I said, because always when someone comes to my place, I'm like, there's the bar, let's create your signature drink. What is it? And, especially if people have been mixologists in their past. And he made this spiced rum cocktail. So simple, but boy, everybody that tastes it just cannot believe how smooth, how easy it is to drink, and how tasty it is.
Yeah, well, I love daiquiris as well. They're great, and I love the simplicity. I usually make the standard one, or when it's the summer and we're with my wife, she loves the frozen strawberry daiquiri. So that's basically you add strawberries and you blend it in a blender. It's a bit lighter and very fresh summer drink.
Agreed. Well, I think we could talk for ages about cocktails, but this is not why we're here. Tell me, how did you get into tech? Why did your career go this way and not another way?
So basically, some years ago, I was actually working in finance. My formal background and education is in economics and finance. And I've been working in finance. I think I've started in 2012 or something like that. And I worked there, and it was kind of boring. I didn't like it. I learned I don't like it after working for a couple of years in finance and accounting. And I kind of just, my main passion at that point was just trying to make my work as simple as possible by, building simple tools that would at least make it, make me have to do manual work as little as possible. That usually started out with just building some fancy Excel files with macros and funky formulas and so on. Or just, maybe revisiting the processes themselves and trying to find some ways to make them simpler. And my boss at that time kind of noticed that, my bit of a knack for this improvement. And I was actually starting to reskill myself on my own. I just had, been taking online courses, trying to learn Python programming and so on. So I had a bit of a background in programming, but it was very minimum, and I had started. And then, basically they noticed this and this was an international company with headquarters in Denmark, actually. And we just had a service center in Lithuania. And there was a decision made in the headquarters that we need to start using RPA to automate some of our processes, initially in the service center, then maybe globally as well. And I was just kind of selected to do this as a POC. And, basically approached me and said, "Would you like to do robotics?" And I'm like, "No, I have no idea what that is." My initial thought was that they're talking about actual industrial robots, the physical stuff, because that was a manufacturing company. We were actually assembling stuff. It was manufacturing beer dispensing equipment, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I have no idea what that is, and I don't think that's my kind of a thing." But then they kind of explained it to me what they meant with the word robotics, that it was actually robotic process automation, and that it was actually software robots, and it got me interested. So I participated in a few demos in the vendor selection process of who to work with. We then actually selected a company called Softomotive, which doesn't exist anymore because they were acquired by Microsoft in 2020.
I had the old CEO of Softomotive on the show in the past.
Yeah, okay. So we started with that, initially did a POC with their desktop automation software called Win Automation, and then moved on to the more enterprise level software called Process Robot in our organization. I basically received a single session in training from an employee at Softomotive that was like a maybe 2 to 3 hour session where I basically had selected a process I would like to automate. They showed me how to start working on it. The next day, I continued working on it on my own and basically finished it off, and just kind of was a one-man show for a few years in there, just basically discovering stuff to automate and then automating it. Initially, my former tasks that I had been working on, and then tasks for my colleagues and people in the other branches of the organization. And that worked out quite okay, except for the fact that, I was self-taught mostly. There was almost no community when it comes to Softomotive tools available. There were very few resources available. And obviously, I made lots of mistakes. I built stuff that were not best practice things because I did not have any peers to learn from. But it worked. It was okay. And then I started freelancing a bit on the side because someone approached me and asked me if I could, help them build up a few things. And that kind of grew into my own company. Then I quit the former organization and opened up an agency where initially I was the only one doing it, and then also hired a few more people. We initially worked with partners that would help us make sales and also, consult some clients, especially abroad, because, they were physically closer to the clients. They could visit them and so on. Was traveling a lot to Denmark because that was where we have a lot of clients and our partners were there. So before COVID hit, I was there, on a monthly basis, basically. But yeah, then it's a bit different now. We've switched to Microsoft in 2020. But I think that because of my background in Softomotive's tools and how much I've worked with it, one of the probably most experienced Power Automate desktop developers, and because of how many projects I've built, different types of projects for different organizations, it's just lots and lots of things come naturally to me by now. And I've also had the pleasure of working with other developers that I've actually hired that would come from other organizations where RPA was more established, and they brought best practices to me. I taught them how to use Power Automate Desktop because they were, originally UiPath or Automation Anywhere developers or something like that. So I taught them how to use the tool. They brought in some best practices, taught me how to do that, and and now that there's a huge community around Microsoft Power Automate, I think we're kind of setting the example of how to do it properly now. Even though I started as a one-man show doing lots of things wrong. So
is it your company still?
Yep. Well, it's a family company actually. So I'm not the only owner. There's three of us owning it, but yeah, it's a family business.
Nice. That And this is Robo Virgin, is that right? Is that the company?
Yeah, Robo Virgin is actually a brand name that we had established. The company name is Definra. That's the name. It does a bit more than just RPA. There's another service that the other owners are responsible for. But one of the business services that we work with is specifically process improvement consultancy and then process automation solutions, and also training and so on. And that's the business that I'm responsible for.
Let's take a quick break.
Are you ready to transform your career in just 90 days? Join me on the 90-day mentoring challenge and unlock your full potential. As I listen to the podcast, enroll now and get 10% off using the code MBAP. That's MBAP at the checkout. Don't miss this opportunity to learn from industry leaders and accelerate your growth. Visit ako.nz365guy.com and start your journey today. This is awesome. So tell me, is like, I feel RPA personally in what I've read, not through technical books, but other discourse on where AI is going, that RPA is going to become a massive deal in the AI world. And that is RPA is that I think Microsoft were very strategic in deploying it as part of the desktop, right, on the operating system and the current builds. And I wonder, at the moment, I think it sits there dormant on so many people's machines and they don't know what it's there or what it can do or what's enabled with it. Have you lit up for yourself personally, because of your passion in this area, any kind of personal automations around automating your life on the desktop, let's start with, that you've almost forgotten about them because they're just running all the time or doing what you want them to do?
Well, I actually did some of those things mainly as parts of demos for my sessions where I speak at events. So I don't think there's lots of stuff that I do daily on my computer that could actually be automated. You know, my main things that I do are actually consulting clients or building stuff that's supposed to automate things. So those are not things that you could actually automate easily. But I have a solution that can give me cocktail recommendations for what to make based on the ingredients that I've got.
Nice. So my use case is this. I want AI to understand my email, everything about it. I don't want to think about it I want to only action the stuff that really needs my eyeballs on it type thing. And so I would have thought there would be a use case, hopefully not too far away, where it doesn't take a genius to actually configure, but this whole interception of my email, understanding everything about it's like this whole, I assume you've heard Microsoft start to talk about this concept of agents becoming a more prevalent thing. And I think that this concept of a personal agent that really gets to know me, it knows my schedule, it knows my email, it could read my email, understand what I need to take. Like, this is a critical email. You need to do something about it. It's got a time limit on, and not based on anybody putting that on it, but because it's read and interpreted and understood it. And auto-drafted a response, and even categorization over time. Rather than me creating my folders of categorization, it will understand and logically categorize things and train me on why it chose that, because it's full of wisdom of knowing everything, in the universe about best practice, productivity, and things like that. Do you see that being in the realms of reality with the next 3 years?
Yeah, actually, I do. It's probably gonna come in the form of these, co-pilot tools that Microsoft is talking a lot about. I don't think it's actually gonna use RPA that much, because most of these things can and should actually be done in a cloud-based kind of an interface. RPA is usually used for things that are, where you either don't control the input system, where, you need to interact with some third-party things, website or something like that, or you've got legacy stuff going on. And that's I can see how, and hope that that's a wild dream is where you could potentially, have this agent actually build a desktop flow for you based on natural language because you need something done automatically, like some data entry into some web, application or something like that doesn't have an API and so on. That would be awesome. But generally, this sort of a email handling agent could easily, I think it could be a reality, would probably not involve RPA though.
Interesting. I just thought the reason RPA is, one, it has access to the operating system in a way, like it has, right? There's a whole piece around it could change environmental variables at an operating system level, potentially. Isn't that right? I've demoed RPA from a web scraping perspective for what was the use case I did? I showed a real estate agent that needed to get an environmental report on a property listing from a US government agency, and it would go out, it would hand up the property address and do the query into the EPA tool, I think it was, on the US Gov's website, and then it would hand back if there was any filings or reference on it and allow that to be extracted back into the application that the real estate agent was using. And it works so effectively in that scraper type scenario. Have you done, I know we're well over time already, but have you done anything in that scrape scenario where you've gone up and used it to enrich a data set with a data set that might be online?
And that's a very frequent use case, actually. And we actually have built a few related to real estate, in fact. There's a couple of use cases like that where for example, we've got a client in Denmark that's, they're not really a real estate agent, but like a company that provides services related to real estate, like evaluations, damage reports, energy reports, and all sorts of things. And they usually provide these services to actual physical, people, not to business clients, but to actual people who want to maybe sell their property, or maybe have an insurance claim and so on. And when they have an order coming in for a certain service on a building, they create that in their CRM system, and then we've built a solution that basically picks that up and then pulls all sorts of data and documents from these web resources, local authorities, regional authorities within the country, or more like, actual national level authorities. I think there's like 10 different web pages or something like that we needed to scrape to build this. Some of them had APIs, that was cool, and we built a direct integration, but some of them didn't, because local authorities, they don't usually build APIs. So they've got some very old legacy web pages, and we got that basically scraping that, downloading documents from there, and saving all of that, basically kind of digesting it and pushing it back into the CRM system.
Awesome. Obviously, being that we're well over time already, we could talk for ages on this. My final question for you is, how have you found becoming an MVP?
It was extremely exciting. I did not really expect this to happen so quickly. I did not expect that the things I was doing were actually valuable enough for me to become an MVP. Because I only started speaking publicly like autumn last year, and I had already submitted my application for an MVP by the time of my first speaking gig. But apparently the stuff I did before that was already great enough, because I was doing lots of content on LinkedIn. I was doing all of the community stuff. There is a Discord server where I'm the top user in there, specifically consulting people on Power Automate and so on. And apparently that was enough. And I did not expect that. I thought you have to do YouTube videos, blogs, and lots of them, on a weekly basis or something like that. But apparently what I was doing was actually enough, and it was exciting. And now I'm obviously being spammed a lot, and because there's plenty of information channels. Some of them are very useful. I had to filter out those that aren't, but there is great content made available for me right now. And I think it's also made me more attractive to actually to event organizers to actually accept me to speak at their events now, because I'm an MVP. I've started getting accepted to lots and lots of events. I did not expect that to happen. So that was weird, because I love speaking. I found a new love for speaking at these events.
You're good at it. You're good at it, as in, like, of all the sessions that I watched on that Saturday at Microsoft, I mean, yours was the one that really stuck with me. The way you broke down the subject, lots of humor in your presentation. I think that was on point. It was really well done.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And basically, well, I do love it. I like it, and I enjoy the fact that me being an MVP has now opened me, some doors to me to actually getting more of these speaking gigs and events that are actually interesting.
Agnus, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.